YouTube.
All right. It was a day or two, last couple of days, Paul has had a couple of top fives on those who have done and taken advantage of the transfer portal, at least so far, to the best of their ability. And again, even today it changed with what happened in a couple of cases. And those maybe five that have not been able to take advantage of it yet enough. We're now joined by Edgar Thompson, Orlando Sentinel. He's been with us to discuss the Gators. Billy Napier there now, and they've done a nice job with the transfer portal. And Edgar, thank you, sir, for being a part of the show. Has the momentum it appears we see with Billy Napier, is it as obvious in Orlando, or in Gainesville as it is here?
Yeah, I think that people are really excited about Billy. And first of all, thanks for having me, guys. Good to talk to you. Billy's come in and endeared himself to fans with just this real straightforward approach. He's very thorough, very organized, and he is just going step by step trying to build this thing, from the ground up with a foundation of just, I'm telling you, he said it was going to be an army of analysts and stuff he hired, and he is living up to that. It's unbelievable. Every day there's like a new hire. So he just completed his staff today, his 10 assistant coaching staff, with the addition of Sean Spencer, who is a longtime defensive line coach, was at Penn State for 6 years, and then with the Giants the last 2 years, New York Giants. So good hire, it seems, and he's completed that staff. But he's got just I think he's hired 40 analysts now, maybe 41, quality control analyst type, strength coaches, all this stuff. It's amazing. And the investment that's being made. And he's putting recruiting, to your point about transfers, as top priority. This is a talent acquisition business, as he says. It's what Kirby Smart says. It's what Nick Saban thinks. It's what Jimbo thinks. And if you're going to keep up with the Jimbos and the Nicks and the Kirbys, that's got to be your attitude. And it really wasn't quite the focus under Dan Mullen. Now, Dan was about recruiting and getting good players, but he maybe wasn't quite as invested, let's say, with his staff and even his own actions and really doing what you got to do to get the top people. Because I think Dan felt like development, scheme, Xing and Oing, and these kinds of things, I think we talked about this before, where he was exemplary at those things, in his opinion, and results proved it. But at some point, man, you got to have the depth. You got to be able to line up. You got to have a guy who's faster and stronger. And as we saw from Georgia, depth and talent can wear down any team, including mighty Alabama.
Edgar, he's done well with pulling the best people from the Louisiana roster over with him in the transfer portal, and given his late start into recruiting, I know he closed about as well as you could, given the fact that he didn't have much time between getting the job and the first signing period. But what do you think about the guys he's brought in so far, transfer portal wise?
It's like I haven't dug into film, man. I'm joking with you. I just don't know enough about him, but I trust that this guy has an eye for talent. Well, he worked under Dabo at Clemson early on in his career. He was with Nick Saban for 5 years. He built a program that was, a middling, Sun Belt team into a power. At that level, and a team that's been ranked. Gators weren't ranked this year. Louisiana was. So, he brought in 2 linemen. Ford, the monster. That's 6'5", 350 or something. He brought in this Cameron Waits kid who's young but massive. He got a running back who's a first-year freshman, Charles Johnson. Kid had a good season. I think 800 plus and 12 touchdowns. Now, this is against Sun Belt competition, though, mind you. So we just don't know. But those are guys he seems to trust. They're going to give you depth, if nothing else. They're going to be guys you can develop. 2 of them are first-year guys, and they're 18, 19. Long careers ahead of them. He got the Kimber kid, Jalen Kimber, the cornerback from Georgia. That guy was a projected starter going into spring for Georgia. So I'm not sure why he left, but that's a good guess. He has Javon Baker on his radar, the wide receiver transfer from Bama. I mean, the guy's making moves, and that's what you want. That's what you want to see. Now, as for the recruiting class, day of, he did pretty well. He got Kamari Wilson. Not really flipped, but he decided to come from IMG instead of going to Georgia. He came to Florida. And Florida has not done well recruiting IMG Academy in Bradenton. And that's been a sore spot with fans, and a lot of talent is there. And if you can get a foothold there and start getting kids to Gainesville from Bradenton, instead of letting them go 5 more hours north to Athens, that's a big score. So he's making moves. He's doing things that fans are, enjoying and they like. Now, here's my big question, guys. And I'm not saying it's not true, but how good a coach is he? I don't know. How good a developer is he? I don't know. Does he call good plays? Does he make good in-game adjustments? I have no idea about that. We know Dan Mullen was good at those things. But, so some people, it's funny. One of the guys on the beat tweeted one time that Kirby Smart and Dan Mullen were put on this earth to figure out or answer the long-standing argument, is it talent acquisition or development that really matters most? Now, because Dan, before this year, was way ahead in the development coaching aspect in Kirby, and the Kirby's is killing it on the recruiting trail. I don't know if that's also true now. I mean, we thought Kirby did some pretty good coaching this year, obviously. I just think that, bottom line is that's where Napier's at. That's where fans are excited. He's all about, Army of players.
I saw where, there was at one point an expectation that Emory Jones was going to be in the transfer portal, but that has not occurred to my knowledge. And they did add, although it's been a while now, but Jack Miller coming over from Ohio State back in November with Emory Jones looking like he may be back and Anthony Richardson being back, and you got Jack Miller in the fold, and I know there's some other guys in that quarterback room as well. What are your thoughts on any kind of quarterback competition starting this spring?
I mean, there's going to be competition, and that's what you want. I mean, there's been some years here. I've covered the Gators, got a lot of seasons now, 15 now I've done, but, I've been back about 10 since I've been back this second time. There have been years where, who's playing quarterback? There is, no competition. Now, we're still kind of at that, who's going to play quarterback, but there are a lot of bodies and a lot of guys to choose from, and talented guys at least. Whether they can play the position and make the decisions under pressure and all this stuff, who knows? But Anthony Richardson is an athletic freak. Jack Miller was a big-time recruit coming out of Arizona. Landed at Ohio State. He left because C.J. Stroud beat him out. I mean, that's a Heisman finalist. And Emory Jones, he's a bit of a wild card because I think a lot of people, including Emory, including Dan Mullen for sure, who tied his star to Emory, expected a lot more from Emory. Emory was very shaky this year, did not seem comfortable. Whether it was the offense, whether it was coaching, I don't know. Whether it was Emory, we'll find out. I don't know if Emory will be here after spring. I mean, I think it's a huge spring for Emory to find out how he fits in the plans and how the Gators, view Emory. Now, Emory Jones might just graduate in May and leave. That might be his plan. He might just be, getting his degree, giving him an extra arm. They have two other guys, Jalen Kitna, who's John Kitna's son, the longtime NFL veteran, and Carlos Del Rio Wilson, who was a pretty big recruit out of Georgia. I mean, top 150 guy. And so he has some tools. We'll have to see how it unfolds. I mean, I think it's Richardson is the front runner, but he's got to prove he can stay healthy. He was brittle this past year. He got injured a lot in high school, apparently. I mean, he's a kid who's almost too big and strong for his own body. I mean, he's 6'4", 240, and runs like, a cornerback. And that can, you see these guys matchy. I mean, he blows his knee out making a move, right? It's like Jameson Williams did the same thing. I mean, it's like these guys are so fast, so strong, so explosive, they can injure themselves and no one's around them. And Richardson has done that. So they got to get him in the right, whatever training, flexibility, I don't know, to keep him healthy. And if he can stay healthy and learn the position more and more, I mean, that guy could be a big-time talent.
So, Edgar, they brought some guys in. I know they're not finished by any means, but one thing that we've kind of talked about with the transfer portal, and you see some of these transfer rankings now, is they don't really account for who's leaving. It's just like all that you're getting, but not really so much about who's leaving. There's not really deduction points or anything like that. But in terms of who's left Florida, what would you say has been notable, if anything?
I mean, Mahmoud Diabate going to Utah was an interesting move, surprising on some level. I think that they could have used him, moved him back to a position. He was an inside linebacker at about 228 and really more top heavy. I mean, very explosive athlete off the edge. They moved him inside. I mean, he made a lot of plays, but he also got run out because of traffic. And I mean, it just wasn't a good fit. And I thought he would probably come back. He's gone. He's going to Utah, which opens in the swamp against Florida. So that's going to be a weird dynamic. Jacob Copeland, the receiver, left. He's some production, but he dropped a lot of passes. I just got to be honest. The kid had a lot of ability. He was a big-time recruit, top signee in the 2019 class, I believe, maybe 18 class. Yeah, 18 class, highest-rated guy they had, but Under Armour All-American. He just dropped too many balls. He never really produced like we thought he would. So those are the two significant guys that I can think of off the top of my head. But they can overcome those. I'm waiting for certain guys to emerge, like a Derek Wingo, that was a big-time player coming out of high school, and he's in his third year and really done anything at linebacker. So they have new coaches coming in, new techniques. Maybe can get more out of them. Jay Bateman is the guy who's coaching inside linebackers. He was in North Carolina, DC the last couple of years, has a good track record. A lot of experience. We'll see what he can get out of some of those kind of guys. But Ventrell Miller is coming back for a 6th year, and he was the leading tackler 2 years ago, and that's a good piece to have. So, a lot of intrigue. This is going to be a team that's going to come together, in time, and it's going to have to evolve and get better, and it's not going to be some world beater next year and contending for the SEC East, but needs to make some steps and continue to build. 2023, guys, is going to be a monster class. That is going to be a critical class for Billy Napier, because that's really going to form the foundation of the future for that guy.
Edgar, great stuff. Thank you, sir. Good to hear from you again, and talk a little college football during whatever is an off season with the transfer portal, coaching changes now, the NCAA convention news, and, of course, NIL, et cetera. Thanks for your time. Edgar Thompson covers Florida, the Gators for the Orlando Sentinel. We'll have Neil McCready in about 40 minutes or so, maybe less than that, in fact, 30 minutes on Ole Miss. When we come back, Max Olson, the Athletic.com.